Okay, this week's lesson, actually, I'm going to also this week include something, just a heads up that I have something coming for Valentine's Day. And so I want to just talk a little bit about balancing. If you are working on improving your body, your health, often that involves some wanting to decrease some fat, increase some muscle, perhaps. It might be things like heart health, specifically with cholesterol, blood pressure, things like that, thyroid function. All of these things connect with each other. And I want to talk about if you're working on something like this, having a little bit of a balance idea of appreciating how completely individual this can be. And I'm going to give you some, I made a slide for you to, with a list of factors that affect why for one person, there might be different nutritional needs and choices, even in terms of course, how many calories, but more than that, even which, supplements might be useful and how many carbs are going to work well for you, how much protein, how much fat, which types of fat. All of these things can be pretty individual based on a lot of factors. So I'm going to share that with you. Also, though, a lot of things can relate, or a lot of habit changes and food choice changes can work well for most people. And when you're working on making changes, it can be really, really helpful to share the journey with a friend, or especially if you're living with somebody and sharing meals with somebody, doing grocery shopping together, it can be very helpful to be on the same page and not necessarily eat identically. Uh, so that's it. So I'll share the slide with you. Also, if you don't know me, I'm Megan Aro, nutritional therapy practitioner, metabolic health coach, wellness wisdom for women. And so I'm going to share that slide with you. And then I wanted to say, yeah, my course, Mastering Metabolism in Midlife Health, is available for individuals, and it can be shared with somebody, possibly a spouse or a friend, and going through that process together of working on your health, learning about how your body works, how your physiology responds to different nutritional patterns, different lifestyle habits. It's really good to understand your body and then to implement the appropriate changes for you in a gradual step-by-step way. So I do have something coming up for Valentine's, which I won't be specific about today because I don't have it ready for you. But so I'm going to share this list of individual considerations. And here we go. And let's see, make sure I'm not covering up the list. So now there are the obvious ones, of course, and this applies to nutritional needs as well as caloric needs, and those aren't the same thing. But there's some obvious ones, of course, that you probably already would think of. How big are you? What's your age? Are you a man or a woman? Or what gender are you? What's your activity level? Those are some obvious things that can influence how your nutritional needs might be different from somebody else's. But there's a lot more than that. And I really want to emphasize the insulin sensitivity versus insulin resistance here. All of these other ones are also very important, but this insulin sensitivity versus insulin resistance is one that I do focus a lot for my own health and for my clients, because this is really going to impact how well are you going to do with how many carbs and which types of carbs? How much can you indulge and expect to recover well, or how much are those indulgences going to really have a more negative, lasting impact on your health? This is a really big factor for individual choices around foods, but also stress levels. What is your schedule? When you're making your habits, redesigning your habits around meals, whether or not you snack. That's a different question. I did a video on that last week. But whether or not you are a night shift worker, that of course impacts your stress. So your schedule can impact this. How much body fat you have. So the generally the more lean you are, the more likely you are to be more insulin sensitive, and you can have more flexibility around food choices, for example. But also, so how much excess fat might you be carrying, and how much is that contributing to inflammation? How much of it is subcutaneous versus visceral fat? How much is brown fat versus white fat? I mean, that's just some deep details. Similarly, gut microbiome, that what your gut microbiome is like now and how you might change it with nutritional therapy, with supplements. When you change your gut microbiome, you can make big changes in how your body takes in and processes food and how that affects, again, inflammation, metabolism. Food sensitivities, of course, is a big individual factor. Now, I should mention here, I didn't put food allergies on this list. That also is, of course, important. I will just briefly mention food allergies. That's different than food sensitivities. Food sensitivities can change and can often heal and improve with some time and attention, to where you might be able to eat foods in the future that you might currently be reacting to now, if it's not a true allergy. Digestive function is a big one. Stomach pH, for example, that can vary a lot and can be changed with, again, different nutritional therapy approaches. Liver health, gallbladder health, how well you're producing digestive enzymes, or whether or not you're taking them as a supplement. All of these can affect how you're actually digesting the foods that you do eat, and that has a big impact. Genetics. I have one more slide for you that I'll talk a little bit more about genetics on the next slide. And then whether you are carrying a load of infections or parasites or toxins, these can affect your need for nutrients and different minerals, and to support the detox pathways, for example, or to support your immune system. Those needs can go way up when you're fighting an infection or dealing with a toxic load. And then, of course, addictions. If you have, some degree of addiction to, sugar or certain processed foods, or and those can be physiological, and of course, emotions can play into this as well. So that might affect what a food that might work well for one person might not work well at all for somebody else. And culture, I won't go on about that, but cultural influences affects, uh, how easily you're going to be able to make this food choice versus that food choice. And again, your environment, your family, your culture that you're living in, but also your emotional ties to foods. So those are going to be factors. So all of these things can be very individual, and these need to be considered if you are, say, going through a process of making habit changes with a partner, with a friend. You want to be keeping these in mind, that you might be able, a lot of changes you might be able to implement together and pretty identically, and then some things might need to be individualized. So, and also then, uh, there we go. Genetics, I said I would come back to this. So I want to say that yes, genetics are individual, and I would encourage you to not blame genetics or make genetics be an obstacle to you when you're trying to work on your health improvements, whether that's weight loss or other aspects of health. Because genetics can play a role, certainly, but the nutrition and lifestyle choices is a much bigger influence on these things. than your genetics. And this is a slide sometimes I use in presentations. You may have seen it before, but insulin resistance and metabolic health or metabolic decline, this is the big part of the iceberg that's hidden. It's under the water, but it's really the bigger part of the picture when you can see the whole picture. And these are really influenced by nutrition and lifestyle changes. Now, your genetics are going to influence when you have insulin resistance growing, when you have metabolic decline developing over years. Your genetics is going to influence which of these things above the surface of the water are how it's going to play out in your body. You know, one person might be more prone to developing diabetes, another person might be more prone to developing anxiety and depression, another might be more prone to dementia. So, so that's where kind of genetics can certainly come into this picture. And you know, it's good to be aware of family history, whatever, but it's not a sentence that you're doomed to have diabetes, for example, just because it runs in your family. There's a lot you can do with nutritional and lifestyle approaches to change your metabolic health and change how that gets expressed in your body. And so again, yeah, if you are interested in my course, Mastering Metabolism in Midlife Health, message me or email me, Megan at wellnesswisdomforwomen.com. And I'll have a little special coming up for Valentine's Day. And I think that's it. So I guess I could, as long as I'm posting this video, I could just put that up there at the end. That's me, nutritional therapy practitioner, metabolic health practitioner, functional blood chemistry specialist. I also do other functional testing, health and life coach. And yes, I used to have metabolic syndrome and I don't anymore. And I'm excited about helping others either avoid it or reverse it.